Yeah. Okay, so now we can go. So if you bring up the PDF on your screen, then you can start going through it, and we should be able to see it.
Okay.
And share screen.
Yeah, well, you will have not only the PDF, but you will also have all my notes.
We certainly want to see your notes. Yes.
Yes. Okay. That means that the part with the letters will be less big. I hope everybody will be able to see it.
But Jan, normally you can make the choice between showing only the PDF file and the whole screen. So there's something.
Fine.
Yeah, I don't know exactly Zoom, but normally it's like that. In partager l'écran, I think you can do it.
Yeah, it should be the same as if you're viewing it on your screen. It's just you have to share the screen, and then we'll see it.
Okay, let's try.
Yeah, that looks good.
Is this something that you can?
Okay, now we can see it. Oh, and your notes are on the. So if you can control that on your computer, then we make a full screen of the presentation. We should be okay.
If you close the window of your notes, then
Yeah,
that should work. Yeah.
Yeah, that could do it. Yes.
Yeah, but I can't read my notes anymore.
What we can do, maybe somebody is sharing the presentation, and Jan will say, "Go to the next slide."
I could do that if you want, Jan. I have the. Hang on. Let's see if I can do this. You have to unshare. You want me to do the PowerPoint? Yeah. You just, so why don't you stop sharing?
Let's stop sharing.
Okay.
I stopped sharing.
Okay, now let me share. Now let me go find it. Oh, hang on. Oh, I have to open it. Hang on. Come on. Okay, there you go. Okay, so that's your presentation, right? You can see that?
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
So if you want to start, and then when you're done, I just say next screen. See if I can make this full screen.
There we are. So what I wanted to show you is my my covers and cards of my collection of German censorship. This is a subject I got interested in when I started collecting the postal stationery cards of this period. And there was a great variety of markings that I could observe, markings of censorship that raised many questions on how and where these cards had been censored. And finally, my search for answers led me to a whole new collection field. So if you go on to slide 2. So this is my summary. As a matter of fact, I will only talk about the Vienna censor office. We could talk also about the others, but that would need another presentation. During World War II, Hungarian mail to and from foreign countries was verified by the German censorship office in Vienna. This office started operating on December 1st, 1939. And the mail processed by this Auslandsbriefprüfstelle, literally foreign letter verifying office, or ABP, shows a great variety of caches and other markings, and their study gives the opportunity to better understand the procedure of this censorship. And also, for me, very important, apart from this technical aspect, this study also makes it possible to account for the ordeals that the inhabitants of the Reich had to undergo under the Nazi regime. It's not possible to show all in detail in 1 hour time, so I will try to explain you the basics of the censorship procedure so that you will be able to, I hope, to distinguish the common from the extraordinary.
Jan, may I interrupt? I'm sorry, I'm a little bit foggy.
Excuse me, Lee?
The German office in Vienna censored all mail going from Hungary to some other country?
To other foreign countries, the
Yeah.
foreign countries with which communications were still allowed. So
All of-
basically,
Yeah.
basically all the foreign countries or friends with the German Reich or Germany itself.
So a letter posted in Debrecen had to go to Vienna.
Yep. All mail from Hungary that went outside the borders of Hungary had to go first to the Vienna office. And only after that it was delivered. It went back to the postal circuit again when it was cleared by the censor office.
Okay. What do you mean by the borders of Hungary? Because they were changing.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, all the countries around Hungary had the same censor office, so that didn't change anything.
Okay, all right, fine. Thank you for that.
Yeah, don't hesitate to ask questions if things are not clear. That's the purpose also of this kind of presentations.
Mhm.
So I will, as you can see in the summary, there's different categories of censoring materials. All these categories, I will talk about them, and for each category, I will divide my presentation in 3 periods. That's just a division I have made. I think it makes more sense. These periods are September. No, it's not September. It's a mistake. It's December 1939 because the office started in 1st of December 1939. And from December 1939 to early 1940, the search, as a matter of fact, for this office just opened is for the most efficient method. They are clearly trying all kinds of different treatments, different forms, and I will show you how that happened. And then follows a period of relative stability, where you can see that there are only minor changes in the execution of the various caches and resealing strips. At the end of the war, the responsibility of censorship is transferred from the Wehrmacht, the armed forces, to the SS, in which Hitler had more confidence, and that as a result, the execution of all the material was also significantly changed. If you go on to the next slide, please.
Yep.
So I now show you rapidly the literature that exists. The problem with this subject is there are no archives of the censor services during the World War II. So most of the knowledge we have is gathered in the different publications on the basis of the attentive study of the survived mail from this period. And that's how we still continue to find more and more details. So several German catalogs exist. The oldest one is the Riemer catalog from 1978 on your left, 79, which was which needed an update, and that is Horst Landsmann, with help of many collectors, notably the members of the German census study. He did this job, and in 2008 there was the first edition, and if you go to the next slide, you will see that very rapidly in 2019 there was already a completely revised edition.
Hey, Jan, may I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, I'd like to plug this book. I don't know if the members can see it. János Dahn published it, and it's the postal censorship in Hungary between 39 and 46.
Yeah.
Okay, it deals extensively with what your topic is. This
Yeah,
book
it
it's in 3 languages: Hungarian, English, and German. And it just came out this year. And I wrote a book review for the newsletter, but it hasn't been published yet. But I highly recommend this as a supplemental reference.
Yeah, I will talk about it. It's the next,
Okay.
slide.
All right. Sorry to take away your thunder.
The second edition, as you can see, it's very extensive. It's really a catalog of all the different types that are known. And this is not in 3 languages, it's in German, but also there's a very short description also in English for each type. So this would really be a book that you'd need if you wanted to, and it's still available at my knowledge, and not that expensive. Next slide, you see a very recent book by Philip Townshend, so on German censorship in English language. And this is not so much a catalog as more an attempt to explain the censoring process. Who did what, when, where, and why. And he does this by showing a multitude of covers and cards. It's really a very interesting book also. And I take this opportunity to specify some of my vocabulary. From Townshend, I have taken over the use of the word cachet to name the multiple censorship markings instead of the word stamp, because stamp can also refer to either a postal hand stamp or mechanical stamp, or even the postage stamp. Whereas cachet, there's no doubt. And when I talk about censorship, then I mean the process of censoring. And when I say a censor or a censor officer, this refers to the person that does the censoring. And to distinguish the two is important, for instance, to make the difference between the anonymous censorship cachets and the more personal censor marks. It will become clear in my in the rest of the presentation. Now, next slide is effectively this Hungarian book that was published last year also. It's not only on German censorship, it's of all the possible World War II censorship on Hungarian mail. Now, the German part is treated only in a rapid overview. And for me, its main interest resides in the Hungarian censorship, which is treated really extensively.
Jan, may I ask a very quick question? Because maybe I missed it. What about incoming mail? Mail coming into Hungary?
Yeah, that was censored also by the Vienna office.
Also in Vienna. Yeah, all of it went to Vienna.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
That was the basic idea, but there's many exceptions, and I won't have time to talk about that in this presentation. If there's interest, that could be done in the next one. So next slide. Yeah, this is not in the summary, but I decided to take time to talk about the censor and administrator markings. Now, these are these markings done by the person or the officers that were really doing the job of reading the letters. that also could be a separate presentation, but just a quick talk. This is a letter that shows really all the different possibilities. In the middle of the envelope, you can see a 6-digit black numerator stamp. All incoming mail at the ABP Vienna received this numerator, and when the letter was opened, all the sheets that were in the inside received the same number. As you can see, there's a little zoom on the left bottom with this same number in green that I've photographed from the sheet on the inside. At the right hand side, at the bottom, there's 3 different numbers. There's a little zoom also there where I tell about that I call sensors markings. You can see 7020 in green /1. This is the administrator who checked the contents. And so she opened the letter and she found 1 sheet inside the envelope. So she wrote her number, 7020/1, to say there is 1 sheet inside. Above the 7020, you have a small penciled number, 120. That is the identification of the real censor, the person that read the message inside, the letter inside, and that decided whether it could be passed on. And on the back, so that's on the right side of the image, on the back you have 3 small violet markings, administrators markings. I've made a little zoom also of it. Now that are all the other administrators who checked, for instance, the sender's address or the recipient's address. So all these little markings can very often tell us exactly what happened to this letter in the censor office. So that's why it's important to keep this in mind.
May I ask a question?
Yep.
The 147911 on the outside, and then the letter on the inside of the envelope gets the same number.
Yeah, but in green.
And different font too.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. It's the number that counts. And they did this to be sure that, imagine on this table of these censor offices, there were many, many letters. They wanted to be sure that the envelope would receive again the sheets that were initially inside and not the sheets that were in another letter.
Right. So they had 2 they had 2 stamps, 2 different ones.
Yep.
This is a lot. This is a lot of apparatus.
Yeah, there were more than 2 different stamps, and while all the details we don't know them, there's no archives to tell us exactly what the procedure was.
No.
These are just deductions of what we can observe on the letters that are still there.
Well,
Jan, is there a listing of the censors and the actual names of the people that censored the mail?
No,
So,
we
Like
have
120 is lost to history.
Yeah. We have just 1 or 2 or several people that after the war told what they did in these offices, but very little is known. So we can go on to the next slide. So now I'm really starting the presentation of the censorship markings, as I said in the summary. To begin with, I show you the different resealing materials. Every time that the letter was opened, it had to be closed again before passing it on to the post office again. And it was the office in Vienna that introduced this type of closure strip. Imagine a roll of tape that the censor officer or the administrator could cut at the right length to close again the opening slit that was made here on the back side of the envelope, it was done with a roller cutter. Now that only cut the one side of the envelope. And this this first type shows the word geprüft, examined, and Oberkommando der Wehrmacht in the seals, the round seals. And as you can see on the envelope, there's nothing else. There's just the closing strip, no markings whatsoever for the moment. So this is one of the very early uses of this first type of closing material. Next slide.
That one was December of 1939, December 8th, I think.
Yeah, December 8th.
That's an early one.
Yeah, it was just opened. This one is February 1940 with a new type of strip. And here the word geprüft is replaced by geöffnet, which means opened, which is more in adequation with the function of the tape effectively. And here still not many, some censor markings, but not very much yet. And here the tape was not on the top of the letter, as it was mostly done at the reverse side of it, but the top was already occupied by the address and the stamps. So here the strip was stuck on the bottom. The next slide.
Jan, on that previous slide, there was a 6-digit marking and also a little 1942. Were those censor markings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said. They're starting to have some of these markings. The number, the 6-digit numerator, if I remember correctly, was started to be used at the end of December. I have some very low numbers. I have a number with only four digits in the end of September, December. So this with geöffnet, otherwise nothing else changes. If we go to the next letter, you can see that here it has not only the word geöffnet, but there's also a code letter, the letter G. As a matter of fact, there were many censor offices in Berlin, Frankfurt, Königsberg. And in order to keep the location of the different censorship offices secret, there was no mention at all on the censorship caches and strips of the name of the towns where they operated. But there was an internal identification system which consisted in attributing a different letter to each office. And this identification letter appears on many censorship materials, like here, the letter of Vienna, which was the code identification letter G. Next slide. Now here, as you can see at the bottom of the slide, we change period. This is the period of relative stability, because effectively from April onward, this is the type that will be used. I don't know if you see the difference with the previous types. The difference is that the word geöffnet is no longer in the middle of the tape, of the strip, but it's alternatively on top and alternatively at the bottom. And
I think we are not on the right slide.
No, it's
slide
not the
11.
Right, you went too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 11.
So it's
Here we are.
Yeah, this one. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
April 11. So this is a very early use of this new type, where the text alternates above and below the middle of the strip. And all the former versions will disappear. From now on, the letters were most often opened at the left side. And so when they sticked on the tape, you had the word geöffnet visible on the back and on the front.
Jan, about this one here,
Yep.
did you try to make out the street address that was crossed out in the return address in the upper left? Did you try to make that out to see what name that was?
It's not a return. Oh no, it was a change of address of the sender.
Yeah, I was wondering whether it was a change of address or a change of name of the street. That's the sort of thing that fascinates me, the changes in the names of the streets in Budapest and elsewhere.
Yeah, I would have to take the cover and look at it in detail. I can't distinguish it here.
Fine, okay.
Okay, we go to the next slide. So I told you already, now we are in a new period. I said in the introduction that I distinguish a third period. So that's really at the end of the war and 44 and in 1945. That's because of the fact that in February 1944, Hitler ordered the transfer of a number of Wehrmacht assignments to the SS, and including the assignment of censorship. This was because several members of the Wehrmacht defected to the Allies, and Hitler had more confidence in the SS from then on. So by mid-1944, the reorganization was ready on paper, but it took a lot of time to change the real material. It was decided to replace the neutral designation Oberkommando der Wehrmacht with the much clearer Zensurstelle, censorship office. Until then, the use of the word censor had been carefully avoided. And from now on, it's everywhere on the material. But these new materials were not available until the end of the year, end of 1944. And they were therefore only in use for a few months. And this short period of use, combined with the fact that postal traffic with foreign countries was very limited at that time, at the end of the war, explains why cassets and resealing strips with the new text are relatively difficult to find. So here you have the strips that have the new text and also the censorship stamp.
Jan, are these easy to forge or counterfeit?
Not really, no. Well, there are some known counterfeits, but they are relatively easy to
detect. Yeah.
to detect, right? What can be done sometimes is well, it's very difficult to soak off the strips, for instance. They stick very well. So no, I didn't see much counterfeits.
You know, when you say that these are rare from this period here, the first idea is people will try to fake them. Yeah.
Well, of this hand cassette, there is a forgery that's known, but it's such a gross forgery. You can see it right away. It's even in the Landsman catalog.
Good.
And that's the only forgery I've knowledge of. Which is much easier to do is put another stamp on it, a supplementary stamp to say, for example, that it comes from an SS company somewhere. There are many people looking for that kind of material, and that's much easier to do. That kind of forgeries, yeah, those exist. Okay, we go on?
Yep.
Now, this is another type of material they tried to quicken the process as much as possible. So from February 1942 on, there was a mechanical resealing device that came into use that applied in one passage a narrow sealing strip, as well as the machine censorship cachet to tie it to the letter. And the problem is with this cachet that it's a very delicate design, and it's printed on an embossed strip. So very often it's not very clear. Can be also an excess or a lack of ink very often. And on top of that, the cachets wore out very quickly. There's many different types of it, and at the end of the period of use, you can always see that it was in a very bad shape. A little detail for this one: the cachet is in reversed position here. Normally, the wings of the eagles should be on the strip, and the identification letters, the G, are on the envelope. Otherwise, you can see all these little numbers on the front and on the back. It has been extensively censored by all kinds of persons. You can see at least 2, 4, 5 people that have had this envelope in their hands. The next. Still the same resealing machine, but with one of the different types that you can encounter. As I said, many strikes are very poorly struck, so it's difficult to see all those small differences, but here the difference is really rather important. The wings of the eagles are much broader and are angular. If you go back to the other quickly, maybe you can see the difference between the two. Here they are rounded and much shorter. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to the other one, you can see they're much longer. Mm-hmm. This one is quite rare. It's not very common. Next, here we change in the period. We go again to the period where the SS has taken over. As you can see, we're in late 1944. And even for the machine, the resealing machine, they changed the cachet also. And on the back of the envelope, on the left top, you can see also there's a bluish smear, a stroke on the envelope. That's the chemical testing department that put a chemical product on the envelope to see if there wasn't a hidden message written on it. Yeah, probably the inside, if I don't have the sheets anymore, but on the inside certainly there were these same testing strokes. Next.
Yeah, and on this one here, no, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who applied the Hungarian shield?
That was the Hungarian censorship. Yeah, some envelopes were opened 2, even 3 or 4 times. The Hungarians also, they had their own censor service, and even if it was censored by the Hungarians before leaving the country, it left the country, so it had to go to Vienna, and in Vienna they started it all over again.
Okay. Wow.
Imagine that this letter arrived in Nuremberg and the recipient was not there. So the letter was returned to Hungary. Well, it returned to Hungary via the Vienna censor office, which started it all over again. They opened it again, they looked at it again. So you can find letters sometimes there's no room anymore anywhere to open it again. It has been opened everywhere. On the next slide, Yeah, we go to another type of material. These are the censorship caches. And these markings had a really precise role. It was these markings that declared that the item had been verified and it could be released to go back in the postal distribution circuit. So normally this is the final point to all the other censorship markings that could have been applied. This is the last one. So as a matter of fact, we saw already some of the censorship caches when we talked about the resealing material. You saw already some mechanical censorship, or yeah, some censorship caches. I will now review them more systematically. So this is one of the very first types, a hand cached. It appeared in January 1940, and in the first one.
Next one or no?
No. Still the
No. Okay.
the card from February 1940.
Yeah.
So this is the very first cache that was used with this purpose. In the beginning, it was blue or violet, like here, but then afterwards, it was almost always in red.
A little question about this one. It's a postcard, so the message is on the other side. Doesn't have to be opened. You just turn it over and read it. Yeah. Yep. Are there any marks on the other side? Any caches? Anything at all?
Sometimes some of the admin marks can be on the reverse. The little violet number marks that we saw on the letters, they can be sometimes also on the back of postcards. Those were administrators that checked the addresses.
Okay.
And here there's not only the censorship cache, but the little numbers that you see penciled on the bottom left. They could be censorship or censors that have written their number. At the right bottom, I think that's more the price of one of the people that sold it once.
Right.
That's the problem with this kind of material. Very often there's different pencil markings on it, and you don't know which are really important and were there originally and which others have been added. That's why I never write anything in pencil on this kind of item. Now, so these are the hand caches. Later on, most of the ordinary mail was marked mechanically. I will show you these mechanical type also. And this kind of cachet was used only on registered mail. And they all had this text Oberkommando der Wehrmacht and the word geprüft, verified, in this little hood on top of the seal. And the fact that they were hooded makes it rather simple to distinguish these caches from the many caches that exist, the circular administrative caches that resemble much these type of stamps. Now, the next slide. So this is a registered letter. So it has been opened, resealed again, and to declare that this letter has been thoroughly censored, it needed a censorship cachet, and here you have the hand stamp. At the same time, the hand stamp tied the sealing tape on the letter to prevent it to be opened and resealed again. After somebody putting something inside the letter so that it could pass the borders without being checked by the censors. Next slide. So here again, we are at the end of the war, November 44. And here you can see this cachet, this hand cachet that we saw already also on one of the earlier letters. Now, all the other markings are still the same. We find the same numerator on the card also. These numerator numbers, they were not only there to be able to put the right sheets again in the right envelope, but also if this card had been checked and they found something that was not clear with it and they had to pass it on to a higher officer, then they could easily in their report say, I'm talking about postcard number 475661. Here also there has been Hungarian censoring before it went to Vienna. The Hungarian censor is often very fast, or the postmark is from November 12, and the Hungarian censorship was the day after, November 13. It's almost always is the case like that with Hungarian censorship. So the next I talked to you already about the mechanical censorship cachets. Now this is the very first type that came into use. So this is printed by a machine. This made it possible also to go much faster. You could put many cards, letters quickly through the machine instead of individually applying a hand cachet. And Vienna has been one of the offices that very often came as the first office with new material. Machine cachets have been in use in Vienna for the first time. So this is in April. Up till now, in all the catalogs, it said that they appeared only in May 1940. So this is a very early example. So on this type, you can see the round seals with the eagle and the swastika, as you can find them also on the hand stamps, and the lines are rather waving. They're not regular. Also, they have different lengths. They go almost against the rim of the seals. That's a difference with the next types. If you go on to the next, oh no, sorry. This is again an example of the same mechanical type, the same type mechanical cachet, and it wore out very rapidly. You can see here that the upper line is already missing. You have the idea that there's only 3 lines. I even have a card where there's no line at all anymore. There's just the seals that appear, which can make you think that's a hand stamp, but it's not. It's a worn out machine stamp.
I worry about the fate of Martha Mendel.
The fate of?
Martha Mendel, the addressee.
Oh, this here.
Yeah, I worry about her.
Oh.
This is 1940, right?
Right.
And it's in it's Moravia. Yeah. Yes, Moravia.
Meren, yeah.
All right.
Protectorate Moravia.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I said also in the beginning of in my introduction. Some of these letters are very explicit about what was going on and what happened. I didn't show it, but I have one such letter with that was returned to the sender, and it was written on it that they couldn't find the addressees because they had left with the Jewish transport.
Right.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Next slide. So this is a new type. Here you see the lines are all have exactly the same length.
Mhm.
And here it is used not on an ordinary letter, but on a printed matter letter. And these letters, they were handed over at the post office without being sealed. So they didn't need to be opened at the censor office, didn't need to be resealed either. So there's no resealing strip, just the censorship cachet to tell it's okay, it can go back to the postal distribution. Next slide. Yeah, there are many variations of this cachet also. It's all on the basic pattern of these circles with the eagles and the parallel lines that connect them. And the number of lines varies. It goes from 2 to 4 or 6 or even 7. And of the 2-line type, the distance also between the lines can differ. And here they really go in the catalogs, they really go into the details. You have the 11 millimeter, 12, 13. I wonder if it's really worth a separate catalog number, these variations. But this one is a 14 millimeter. It's not mentioned in any catalog, but I won't.
Joe.
I won't ask that.
Joe, do you see the?
Oh, I see the perfins.
Yep. Yeah.
I never
Perfin
missed
and-
them.
Yeah. Plus the mechanical franking.
That's right. This one is especially nice because you got both stamps and you have the meter mark.
Yeah. Just a pity that it's a window envelope. I can't tell where it went to, but that's a detail. Next slide. So here we're in the last period of the war, December 1944. These caches also were redesigned after the SS took over. This type of cachet exists with 2 variants, either 7 or 2 lines. So this is the 7-line type. Next slide.
I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
This is from Budapest to Zagreb.
Yep.
Zagreb.
Yeah, so it went to Vienna. From Budapest, it went to Vienna first, and then back again to Zagreb.
Which is Croatia separate. Yeah, it's a foreign country by then, yes.
By then, yes. In the beginning of the war, it didn't have to go to Vienna, but at this time it did.
Well, notice that the date is December 19th. Budapest was encircled, and there's no postal traffic after the 24th of December. So this was one of the last transports that left the capital.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah. Well, I've later material from Budapest that apparently got out of Budapest all the same.
How late?
If we have time, I will show you some extras at the end. This is the next slide, please.
Yeah.
So we go over to another type of marking. Certain types of mailings, they were not opened during the course of their processing by the censorship office. They were considered not very sensitive, and they could go through. However, in order to make it clear to the postal organization that nothing stood in the way of delivery, there were distinctive pass-through hand caches that were attached. And this is one of the earlier types. This is not December 1940. This is later. I'm sorry. December, yes, December 1940. Sure.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's only this circle with the A from Auslandsbriefprüfstelle, the ABP Vienna, and the identification letter, the G. And as you can see, there's only one other censor marking, the little number 484. That was certainly a person that checked the addresses that were on it. And at the back, you can see that this letter came from an employee of the German legation in Budapest. And the legations, embassies, they were exempted from censoring, at least when it were German embassy. If we go to the next one, here again, this pass-through stamp. This letter went to the Oberkommando de Wehrmacht, to the armed forces in Berlin. This correspondence concerned a prisoner of war. It's written on the front, Kriegsgefangene, prisoner of war, in red pencil. It was all the same, checked by 3 administrators. If you see on the back, the little numbers. So certainly they checked the addresses before it was passed on. As you can see also, the top of the rim is missing on this cachet. And that was a deliberate cut in the rim. And these were made in order to personalize these caches, because there could be several copies of the same type in use simultaneously. So that way they could always tell which censor had been responsible for saying this letter can go through. Because there were also officers, higher officers, that checked from time to time the work of the individual censors. The next letter is a nice example of that. Next card. You can see here on the left, there are 2 of these pass-through hand stamps, hand caches. So you could think, well, it's the same censor that's struck them twice, because the first one was not clearly struck. But if you look at the zoom on the left, you can see that the bottom one has a cut at the right side, and the top one has a cut on the left side. They are 2 different copies of the same type of hand stamp.
If we had seen that on a cancel, from a canceller, we would say under-inked, or there was a pile of cards that were bent or something. We'd come up with some explanation other than these were individualized caches. But
well, for this one, I'm not sure, but I have an explanation. That is that a first censor thought that the mail was official enough to pass it through, because it goes to the chief guardian of a prison, the Wachtmeister. And maybe there was a higher graded censor that was surveying, and she had doubts, or he had doubts, and ordered a thorough examination of the card. Are you still there?
yes.
Okay. I had a strange beep in my my computer.
You haven't lost us. No.
No, we're here.
Okay, as you can see at the back, they have these smears again, these strokes with verification by chemical products. You have all the little markings of the different censor officers. So it was really completely censored before it was released. So it's quite strange that they have put pass-through stamps on it because it has been censored. But well, you can see about everything in censorship. Okay, next slide. So even for the pass-through stamps, there was a machine cachet that was developed. It started its use only in March 1944, so it has not been very much used. And for this card, it's very clear that there has not been much censored. There's no examiner's markings, unless one little number, certainly for the verification of the address, and that's all. But why, in this case, it's not very clear. There's no official character of this letter, in my knowledge.
Well,
But-
there's under inking on the bottom one. It's under inked, so it looks different, but it's not.
No, but what I mean is this is a pass-through stamp that would only be applied on official mail to the or from an official, and this card would not justify an automatic pass-through. But what could have been the case is that sometimes the office was had a workload that was too heavy momentarily. And so they decided to accelerate the process by passing through a certain number of cards, by just having a very quick look and then pass it on. So that could be an explanation. Next card. So even for the resealing machine, they developed a miniature AG cachet to certify the small strips of the machine. Now, none of the authors that I mentioned at the beginning of my presentation consider this cachet as a pass-through cachet. I think because the envelopes, for them, the envelopes were open, so there was some censoring. But as in this case, it's about the same idea as the other envelopes that we saw. There's no censoring apart these two little numbers on the back. So they just checked the addresses, and they didn't look at the contents. They didn't verify, they didn't read the letter that was inside. So for me, this is still a pass-through stamp. There's a little detail. If you look at the zoom, in the middle of the image, you can see two red dots. I don't know if you can see that.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, as a matter of fact, this shows the beginning of the wear of this tool. It's been used so often that the screw that's under it becomes apparent. And at a later date, effectively, we have imprints of this screw very clearly. Next slide. So this completely another department. This was not the censorship of ordinary mail. This was the department that censored foreign papers and magazines. And this was not run by the Wehrmacht, but by the Gestapo, the Geheime Staatspolizei. And they didn't have the G identification letter. They got a number, an identification number. The number in Vienna, it was the number 2. So this kind of cachet can only be found on wrappers, or if it's a letter, it's a letter from or to a newspaper. These are not very common because newspaper wrappers very often went up in the bin right away when the
Mhm.
the newspaper was read. And we have a second type. If you go to the next slide, a second type of marking. This is some sort of roller hand cached or maybe a machine cached. We don't really know. With the same text on the inside, and you can see the letter 2 here. It's better. It's more easy to read.
Newspaper wrapper, very interesting.
Yeah. The next slide, and that will be the last one. This is something I acquired very recently. In the Vienna office, there was also a telegram censor office. But in Vienna, that telegram office was in charge of the censoring of incoming and outgoing telegrams for Austria. Not for, I'm not sure if you could send a telegram at that time from Hungary, for instance, to Holland. I'm not sure. I've never seen that. So the censoring, I think it was only possible from foreign countries to Germany, or from Germany to foreign countries. That's a hypothesis. I'm not sure. But also for the censoring, there were only 2 offices that were censoring telegrams, and they weren't in charge of a certain number of foreign countries, but of a certain part of Germany. So Vienna took in charge the censoring of Austria, which was now part of the Reich also. So I have no telegram going from Hungary in that direction to Austria, but I have one from Budapest going to Berlin. And all the telegrams going to Berlin were censored in the Berlin office. So you can see the telegram on the left with this green hand cached on it that I tried to show also on the bottom, which reads Geprüft Haupttelegrafenamt Berlin. So the main telegram office in Berlin. And the envelope that you can see was the envelope in which the telegram left the telegram office to be distributed, to be brought to the recipient. This is my last slide, and this brings me also to my conclusion. You saw quite some different material, but yeah, you can go to the next slide.
No, go to the next slide. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. Yep.
But it's clear that many of the types reported in the catalogs are still missing in my collection. For instance, many insertion labels were used to inform the correspondents to tell them that they hadn't followed this or that regulation. And I have none of these yet. And on top of that, as they say in German, es gibt nichts, das es nicht gibt.
Not good.
There is nothing that is not there. So there's nothing as well is still to be discovered. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you. That
Thank
was
you, Jan.
fascinating.
Yeah, it was. That was a great
was great.
presentation.
Fantastic.
I appreciate your putting this together for us.
Yeah.
And I will check to see what I have to see if I can help you out.
Sure. And if any of you have questions about some censor covers that you might have, send me a scan and I will try to help.
Yep. That's great. Are there any other questions that anybody has?
Well, I'd like to add the thought behind some of Jan's covers. I think he only had one that was double censored. Now, some of these items have 3 censors on them. A Hungarian, Vienna, German, and the destination country.
Yep.
So the topic expands as you look more into it.
Yep.
And I like to really put in a plug for János Don's book, because it is in English and it is available, and it gives a thorough overview of the censor situation in Hungary. And everything was censored from, like Jan said, the telegrams, the radio communications, you name it, and it was censored. And what is, but going back to Joe Colburn's question, the book also gives the number of employees at the various censor offices in Hungary. So Vienna must have been huge, but the Hungarian offices were much smaller. Some of the regional offices had like 5 or 6 censor officers. And, most of the mail going abroad from Hungary went into Budapest first. And the censorship there was very sporadic. Sometimes it was censored, sometimes it was just forwarded to Vienna. So it's an interesting topic, and I'm glad to, for one thing, Jan, I didn't know why all those little different numbers were on the various covers, but you straightened that out for me. So anyway, appreciate the presentation, and like I said, if anybody wants to get more into this, get this book.
Yeah, sure. As I said, I wanted to show you the basics, and that's why these are relatively simple envelopes and cards, even if some of the caches are very rare. But sure, I have many other items that are much more complicated with, like you say, 3 or more censorings on it. And well, those are really interesting topics you can discuss them for hours. It's really, I find it a fascinating subject. Yeah.
Jan, how many years have you been working on this?
Can't tell it exactly, maybe 15 years.
So it's a long-term project.
Yeah, it is. And
Big part of your life.
I still feel a lot of it is missing, and there's always new literature that is needed. As you said, some of the international, the incoming countries also put censorship on it. So you need to know all the allied censorship also when it goes to the States. In the beginning of the war, you have a lot of envelopes that have the Hungarian, German, and allied censorship on it.
John, I had a question. Was there any use by the censors of chemicals to look for secret writing?
Yeah, that's what I showed on several of the
I must have stepped
my
in.
items. These strokes on the bluish, grayish strokes on envelopes or on cards. Those are signs of the chemical testing department. I even have the example of a letter. It came from, that's something I didn't explain, but sometimes, no, this one is okay. It was a letter from Germany to Hungary, registered with, how do you call that? Receipt, proof of receipt. So the letter went from Germany to Hungary, accompanied by a small card. The card would have to be signed by the recipient, and that went back to Germany. Now the letter was censored on the way to Hungary, so was the card. And the card, when it went back again, it was just a form, a postal form with The only thing that had changed was the signature of the recipient. Well, it was censored a second time by the Vienna office. They left nothing uncensored. Everything was checked.
And did they even soak stamps off to look under them for?
Yep. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I have several items like that too.
Some of the prisons had trouble with that, prisoners writing under the stamps.
Question on one of your cards where the addressee is mentioned, there's a big red check mark. And I was wondering if the red check mark is by a censor or somebody who sold you the card.
Oh, no, the check mark is, yeah, you can find them in red or green. And we're not sure what it means, but it's certainly, it's very probable that it is also done by the censor office.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to look really at all the details for in these letters, and we can't explain all the details yet. But I have some cards also from the first period. I told you already, this first period, I could make a new presentation on it. I have some cards. There is nothing on it. In December, January 1940, in December 1939, you can think it's not been censored. And still there is one written 739 at the bottom of the card. And that's the number of a censor officer. So you have to be very careful in wiping out that kind of numbers.
Jan, one of the things we could do if you are interested, it sounds like there's a lot of interest in the topic, and I'm sure we might be able to get some more people coming in if we do a follow-on next year as one of the presentations. So we have them through February, but if you're willing to do that and can put something else together, I think that might be very, very good for everybody.
Okay.
Do you think that's that would work?
Yeah, I can try, but I can't give a date yet. But
no, we haven't set all the dates for next year, but we, I'll put you on the list and we can see if we can add you to it.
Yep.
Jan, may I ask you about your final image, the building and the statue? It's beautiful, but I don't know it.
No, that's the town where I live. It's Nancy,
France.
It's Nancy, France.
Huh. Beautiful.
And the building? What's the building?
This is the town hall with the church behind it, the cathedral behind it.
Mm-hmm.
This was a square that was built by the last Duke of Lorraine. Lorraine was not yet part of France. It was an independent duchy. And this last Duke, Stanislas, he had this square built with all these buildings around. And all these grills, if you go back to the first slide,
please. I can do that.
You have another view of the same.
Probably an easier way to do it than this, but here you go. Ah, yes.
It's always, Nancy is also called the town with the golden gates.
Huh.
There you are.
All right, well, thanks very much. Well, I will post the recording on the website and also your materials. So if anybody wants to go back and look through this and check anything else, it'll be up there.
Jan, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And don't hesitate to ask questions if there's things not clear.
I'm sure we will. There's no shy people here, so don't worry about that.
Okay.
I appreciate a copy of the presentation because now I don't have to write down names of books. I can just go open the presentation to go on them.
That's right. You can go find everything there.
Okay, well, I can send through. I'd have to work a bit on it, but I could give my notes also to
Oh, that would be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I posted Robert's, posted both the notes and the presentation on the web, or I didn't post it, but Ken did, but it was posted up on the website. So if you want to post the notes, that'd be
Mhm.
great.
Yeah. Okay.
Just send them to me and I can make sure that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate it for being
Thank you for
here.
listening.
Thanks, John.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye bye.
Yeah, bye-bye
See you.
now. Yeah,
Bye.
bye. Let's